We are putting the spotlight on your Chicago Bears. That's longtime Chicago Bear Kyle Long. I'm longtime Chicago Bears fan, Chris Hassel. That's a longtime
I wish he was a Chicago Bear. We would have played
Armstead,
together.
Who had some tussles with the Bears over the years as a member of the Saints and the Dolphins. Kyle, talking to you about this comeback win against the Bengals. I mean, that was typical Bears of years past. You blow that big lead late. You lose. No, it didn't happen this time.
Yeah.
My dad called me up after the game. He's like, I've never seen the Bears do this. Never have the Bears outscored a team like that, blown the game, and then still come back to win it.
Well, I think it's really important for, the people that do the low-hanging fruit analysis of wins. When people try to poke holes in wins in the NFL, I hate that, by the way. You and I both know how hard it is
You gave up 42 points.
In the National Football League. But when you give up 42 points and you still win, that means that you scored more than 42 points, which last time I checked is damn good in the National Football League. So for the Chicago Bears, I would say the arrow is trending north, upwards. The defensive side of the ball is really banged up, so you have to take that 42 points given up with a grain of salt and also understand that's Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Flacco, which last time I checked, pretty good triumvirate there in Cincinnati. The thing that impresses me most about this football team is not what I thought was going to impress me most. I thought it was going to be the immediate development and star status of Caleb Williams married with Ben Johnson, right? The best play calls, they've got weapons, all that stuff. And while that is happening, and sometimes it feels like a trickle instead of a steady flow of progress at the quarterback position, Caleb Williams has done enough to win. But it's this football team rallying around and leaning on the run game, okay? It's developing an identity. It's having true explosive ability in your offense. The ability to run it for 4.5 yards per carry is such an important thing in this league because it sets up so much other stuff in your offense. The Bears have been able to do that. They stay on schedule. I just think it's really important to have an identity, and I feel like they have one now, Terron.
I agree, Kyle. To your point, we haven't seen the Chicago Bears have a consistent and just identifiable run game since Charles Leno, were on that offensive line, creating that push.
Shout out to Chucky Len.
Shout out to my guy Leno. But shout out to Dan Rochar. He's the offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. He has resurged this unit up front. At right tackle, Darnell, right?
He's a monster.
He is on pace to be one of the best, regardless of he's on pace to be one of the best in the league. His development that we've seen so far this year under Dan Rochar, who was my O-line coach for 8 years in New Orleans, he is amazing. And so adding that element to that Bears offense with all the weapons that they have on the outside is giving Caleb Williams more options. Is giving the defense they're unsure on the way to approach and attack this team.
They have to respect everything.
They have to respect everything. Those linebackers have to step up and play the run and the play action. And all these guys outside that have speed and home run capabilities, Caleb is finding these guys. I'm finding some confidence in the Bears. I was at that joint practice with you. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
For either side, mind you.
Credit to Ben Johnson. Credit to Caleb Williams and what he's doing. Credit to Dan Rochar and that offensive line. They are producing and performing.
And Dennis Allen as well. I mean, Dennis Allen has had to deal with a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And at the beginning of the year, I looked at that defensive unit and I thought, man, they've got a lot of really explosive guys, opportunities to get a lot of turnovers. The back end's got a lot of stars. But all-pro Jalen Johnson goes down in like week 3 with a hip flexor for the season.
For the year.
Gordon, all these guys, Brisker, in and out of the lineup. But they continue to step up and make plays. And I see a guy by the name of Austin Booker. And if you're a Bears fan, you know the defensive end Austin Booker. But if you're just a fan of the league, you will get to know him soon because these guys are coming out of the woodwork for the Bears. Guys stepping up, making plays. And that is the sign of a good team. Guys looking to come up for air and make a play for their team.
They also just had a sleeper, real quick, Chris, they also just had a sleeper signing. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That's a player that is so dynamic in his versatility, his energy. He's familiar with Dennis Allen. We were all in New Orleans together, very successful down there with each other. So DA knows how to use him. He had a sack, I believe, in his first game with the Bears. that is a player that can really start to become the glue to that Chicago Bears defense moving forward.
With the defenses banged up as they have been, how do they lead the NFL with 19 takeaways? How are they creating these turnovers for that offense?
I think it's guys who have a real good nose for the football on the back end, and I think they're opportunistic, and they are a boom or bust defense. You know, in the games that they have won, they get a bevy of turnovers, but in the games they've lost, it's a desert for turnovers. So they're a team that relies on it. And I remember the last team I was on like that was the 2018 Chicago Bears with Khalil Mack and those guys. We thrived off of turnovers, not just the defense, but when the defense got a turnover, we were going sudden change. We were going for hole shots. We were going down the field. And that's big. And that's why, I mean, you got to create turnovers, but you have to have the right guys in those positions that have a nose for the football.
Kyle was saying something off air that I'd like to get your take on. Kyle said, most explosive offense in the NFL. The Chicago Bears.
Yeah, he said that.
Do you think he was kidding?
At first I did, and then I looked at him again, and I saw the
I'm serious. We wanted, hey, look, you hire Ben Johnson because you watched the Detroit Lions, and that was the most explosive offense in football. While the Detroit Lions still have the Johnnies and Joes on their team, they're missing Ben Johnson's X's and O's. And when we hired Ben Johnson, I said, can you bring Penei Sewell? Can you bring, can you bring these guys over? Amon-Ra St. Brown, can he make the trip too? Well, no, but he found his own versions of these guys. And DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, now Colston Loveland, the first-round pick.
Breakout game.
Having a massive game this past week. And Caleb Williams, obviously, going down the field in the 2-minute mode. I just think it's week to week, this team scores 21 or more points.
Yeah.
They've only not done it one time. That was against the Ravens.
It's hard to argue. Kyle, I almost called you Chris. It's hard to argue.
That happens a lot, by the way. Not just you. It's not just you.
But especially coming off a 40-plus point performance that they just had, I hesitate to call them the most explosive offense in the NFL. We've seen what the Colts have done all year. They did struggle this past weekend, 5 turnovers. That's an outlier game at this point. We get the chance to see them face some adversity for the first time this year and see how they respond. Daniel Jones is looking MVP caliber.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor is Offensive Player of the Year. So it's really hard for me not to go Colts when I'm talking most explosive offense, because consistently the entire season they have done it at the highest level.
Bears with the 4th most yards per game this season, 378 a game, 6th most points per game at 27
Not terrible.
a game.
Not terrible.
For the Chicago
So
Bears,
relative to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I got you.
I would say that if there was a place that was even further than first place, I would put them relative to what we've seen.
Look, they're on a roll. They've won 5 of 6, but when you look at the playoff picture right now, if it ended today, and I know it doesn't, we're halfway through the season, they would not be in. And
that's crazy.
You guys just looked at their schedule. That's really difficult. In fact, on paper, the 3rd most difficult remaining schedule the rest of the way. Because they still have to play the Packers twice. It's not.
They got to go to
What do you see the rest
Minnesota.
of the way?
They got to go to Minnesota. That'll be really the one. So that's week 11 in Minnesota.
Why are you circling that game against the Vikings?
Well, because they played the Vikings already with J.J. McCarthy in primetime week 1.
Disastrous collapse.
So that was a disastrous collapse, and I feel like this team that we see every Sunday now would have beat that team week 1. This will be a good measuring stick to find out how far we've come as a football team. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings, they got a big win this past week.
Huge win.
And there was a lot of deliberation about the quarterback position there, but they seem to have found their guy. You beat them week 11, you're in the hunt. I expect them to get the job done against the New York Giants at home. Then you got to play Aaron Rodgers, which we know, historically speaking, doesn't really bode well for the Bears. You got the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, which is always a nightmare. You can attest to that. Sure. Green Bay on the road, that's tough. Cleveland you got to beat, and then Green Bay at home, San Francisco on the road. Then you come back to host the Detroit Lions. So a bevy of really tough opponents, but I didn't expect them to be in the playoffs this year. You didn't expect them to be in the playoffs this year. You probably didn't either. They're in a good spot. Yeah. And if you're a Bears fan, you can rest easy knowing that the project is underway and there's progress being made.
Your Chicago Bears, the most explosive team in the National Football League.